Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lit Talk or Literature Talk. I'm your host, Olive, and today we're going to dive into a literary text, specifically a short story that's both heartwarming and socially revealing, with the title Family Apart, Family Together by Teresita San Erpetalio. So, this story is from a Philippine, and here we have two amazing literary critics that's joining us today, Rifaldi and Mikha. Welcome, guys, and thanks for coming here.
Hello, Lee. Thanks for having us. It's an honor to be
Really?
here.
You're welcome, and we are happy to have you both here. So, anyway, before we dive into this specifically analysis, can you tell us more about? Could you give us a short of overview of what this story is about and why it is interesting to analyze, and for our listener who might not have it read it yet?
Oh, yeah, of course. So, this story is about a boy named Nanoy. He lives with his parents and his sister in a rural area somewhere in Philippines. So, one day his father has to go out of town to get a better job due to their economic struggle. And as an Asian, I find this story is very relatable. And most of the story and the story is mostly about Nanoy's love, his responsibility, and how much he misses his dad while waiting for him to come home.
Exactly. And what makes it so powerful is how real it feels. It reflects something so common in Filipino and Asian culture, which is families being separated because one parent has to work elsewhere. So it's emotional, but it also says something deep about how love and sacrifice are connected.
Oh, yeah, I agree, and it's a story is about a family, right? But also about economic struggle, sacrifice, and togetherness. I really like how it captures the balance, being apart but still emotionally connected. I actually want to read a short line that captures that feelings. In here it said, "Papa left early because your uncle found a better job for him. That's far away." I think this line has a deep meaning. It shows both care and then sacrifice, love and labor in one sentence.
Yeah, that line really says it all. It's such a simple sentence, but it holds the whole story's emotional weight.
Yeah, and also I like how the author doesn't really dramatize that line. It's just stated as what it is. It's normal. It hits me differently because for most of Asian family, that's our reality.
Yes, exactly. All right. Now that we know the overview of the story, let's us move into how you both analyze it through the theory. Could you tell me what theory that you both use to analyze this literary text in the story?
So for this text and the story, we analyze it using the Marxist theory.
Could you explain briefly what Marxist theory is? And maybe some of our listeners are not familiar with this theory or are new to the literature theory.
Yeah, sure. So basically, Marxist literature theory looks at how class, labor, and power shape human experiences and stories. It asks questions like who's working, who benefits from that work, and how do economic struggles shape emotions or family life. And so when we read Family Apart, Family Together, we don't just see a touching family story, but we also see how their love and choices are influenced by economic systems.
Yeah, we can also say that through Marxism, we can see that love and labor are somehow connected. Just like in the story, when Nanoy helping his mom selling snacks, it's not just an act. We can also say that it is a form of unpaid labor that helps the family to survive.
Yes, exactly. Especially in Asian culture, we often equate working hard without loving your family. But Marxism makes us pause and ask, why does love always have to mean sacrifice? Why does a father have to leave home just to meet basic needs?
Yeah, that's so real, right? And I think so many families in Asia can relate to that. Parents working abroad, kids helping out at home. It's really emotional, but it's also structural. So now, why did you both choose Marxism to study this text?
So actually, the reason why we chose Marxism as our lens to analyze the story is because this story is quiet but also political. We can see how it doesn't mention poverty directly, but it clearly shows how the family depends on the labor to survive.
Yep, and it also talks about ideology, how certain beliefs feels normal when the mom says, Papa works long distance for you. It sounds loving, but it's also teaching the sacrifice equals love. And that's how culture and economy intertwine through language.
Oh, I see. So you're not just rejecting culture, but showing how to values and systems shape each others. So if we zoom out a bit, would you say the story focuses more on the author, the text, or the reader's perspective?
I believe that. I would say this story focuses mostly on the text and its social context. We're not just guessing what the author felt when he wrote this story, but more on how the story reflects the economic realities of working class in our society.
Yep, and the reader plays a role too. If you grew up in Asian family, you feel this story. Marxism invites us to step back and ask why we feel that way. It connects emotion and also the awareness.
Okay. And now, can you tell us about your method? How did you actually analyze this text?
So at first we did close reading, so we did closely at the small details like the words, the tone, and the silence. For example, when the line and there is this one line says, "Papa left early because your uncle found a better job." Here we can see that it already shows how work controls family life.
Yeah, and we use discourse analysis to see how language carries ideology. So the mom's gentle tone normalizes sacrifice. It's how economic struggle gets softened into something noble.
Wow. So even a single line can carry so much meaning, right?
Yeah.
And that was very interesting. And all right, let's see how these ideas appear directly in the story. So now that we have talked about the theory and method, let's go into the story itself. Could you walk us through a few lines that really stood out to you, the ones that reveal what you found through your Marxist reading?
Oh yeah, of course. For me personally, there is this one line when Nano says, "I will help you with the chores, ma. I will also help prepare the snacks you sell." We can see here he's still, even though Nano is still a child, he already sees work as part of love. This line shows how ideology is passed down, how labor values become part of identity. It is not forced, but it is internalized unintentionally.
Yes, and that's also relatable in Asian culture. Helping your parents is seen as love, which is beautiful, but it hides the hardship behind that love. And a Marxist reading helps us question that, not reject it, but to understand it.
Such interesting point. So the text isn't directly saying Nanoy is oppressed, but it's showing how ideology teach him to accept labor as love.
Exactly. So there's also that scene where his friends invite him to go fishing and he says, I would love to, but I promised mama would help her. It's quiet, but powerful. He's learned to put duty before joy. That's the ideology at work.
Indeed, Marxists call these phenomenon as false consciousness. So it is where people don't see the system that limits them because it is seen as something good. They see this phenomenon as something normal, so we don't really see it as a problem.
Yes, another strong moment is when the mom says, Papa left early because your uncle found a better job for him that's far away. It's so simple, but it reveals that distance is not emotional, it's economic. So that's alienation, but labor separates people, even from love.
Yeah. And then the mother also explains by saying, Papa works long distance for you. This short sentence carries an ideology behind it. It teaches children that sacrifice is natural, that pain is part of love. Through discourse analysis, we can see how her language make economic struggle seem okay, also makes hard work sounds noble.
Yeah, and I think if we zoom out, that line also reflects the structure of Asian labor migration, isn't it? So many families in the Philippines, in Indonesia also, or Malaysia experience the same pattern. One parents leave, or maybe the father and the mother is just stay, and then the children grow up understanding absence as love.
Yes, it's both beautiful and tragic, and that's the tension Marxism helps us to see. So emotional connection wrapped in structural inequality.
Okay, that's amazing. So the story doesn't openly criticize the system, but the subtext and the little details that the tone reveal the deeper structure behind everyday lives. And would you say the story challenge or reinforce those social norms?
Okay. Yeah, I would say both. What do you think, Fadil?
Yeah, we can say it's both because it celebrates family love, but also shows its cost. The ending feels happy, but that happiness depends on work being finished. It is a temporary relief, not real freedom. This cycle of economic struggle would likely to keep happening again and again. The father will probably have to live again, and then yeah, we can conclude that this repetition is what Marxist theory tries to help us to see how labor defines life, even in moments of love.
So after all that analysis, let's us talk about what it all means. Based on your reading, what do you think family apart, family together is really saying about human experience or society?
I
Lanjut,
think
lanjut.
the story basically shows how love and labor are inseparable under capitalism. For working class families, every act of love, like cooking, working, sacrificing, is linked to economic survival. It is not just one family story, but a reflection of millions. Even love has a price when the system is unfair.
Yeah, I agree. The story does not scream about injustice. It whispers it. It shows how sacrifice becomes a part of identity for many Asian families. It's not just one father living, it's a pattern across generations.
Yeah, and also the characters don't fight the system. Instead, they get used to it. They learn to see the struggle as moral. The problem is that the people can't see oppression because it's disguised as love or duty.
All right. So how does your interpretation that differ from how most people might read the story?
Most readers might just see it as a touching family story, but with the theory, we see the structure behind that emotion and how economy shapes feeling.
Yeah, I assume that if the author could hear our interpretation, I think she would probably smile and say, "Yes, that's what I wanted. I wanted to show how love can survive in this unfair world."
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And then what new insight does this approach reveal that others might miss?
It reminds me of the hidden labor behind emotional strength. People say that Asian families are resilient, but that resilience often comes from the constant survival, not comfort, not because we enjoy living this way.
And literature like this become an emotional archive. It records why society overlooks domestic work, distance, and the cost of care.
I agree with that. All right, we have unpacked the theory and the meaning. So, Fadil and Mika, it is 2025. People are busy scrolling, working, hustling. Why do you think family apart, family together still matters today?
Yeah, of course, because it's still happening. Parents still work abroad, kids still grow up early, and families still prove love through sacrifice. It's not just one story, it's Southeast Asia's story.
Uh-huh. The story reminds us that emotional love doesn't exist outside of social culture, social structures. It encourages us to think critically about how culture teaches us to accept hardship as love. This reflection is still important nowadays, especially when labor, migration, and inequality are part of our society.
Yeah, that's so true. We often see these things around us but don't always question them, right? And then how does doing a Marxist reading change the way we understand stories or even a real life?
Yeah, so it teaches us to look beyond emotion. When we read critically, we see how ideology works, how the stories we love also shape how we think about work, duty, and care. It's just a way to become more aware, not cynical.
Yeah, Marxist reading does not ruin the beauty of a story, it deepens it. It helps us appreciate both the warmth and the weight behind every word.
That's a really insightful. So, if you could extend this analysis, what the other text or theory maybe would you bring in conversation with it?
For me personally, I might bring post-colonial theory because I want to explore how economic struggle connects to history and global labor, since both Marxism and post-colonial theory talk about power and inequality, but from different perspectives. It would give an extra picture of how Filipino or even Asian stories reflect both culture and capitalism.
Yep, same here. I would connect it with stories about migrant workers or domestic helpers. It's not just literature, it's lived experience.
Yeah, that's such a great point. All right, guys, we've come to the final part of our discussion on the family apart, family together. It's been such a meaningful discussion and very insightful, from exploring Marxist ideas to connecting them with the realities of Asian family life. So before we wrap up, I want to ask both of you two more last questions. So the first is, what's one idea from the story that stayed with you the most?
Okay, for me, it's that love is not separate from labor. The story shows how working, caring, and sacrificing are all intertwined, especially for the working class. Nano's family reminds me that even the simplest daily acts, like preparing food, helping your mom, or waiting for your dad to come home, are full of emotional and social meaning.
Yeah, for me, it's that line again. Papa left early because your uncle found a better job for him that's far away. It's simple but captures the rhythm of so many Asian families loving, leaving, and waiting.
It's amazing how such a short story can hold so much truth. And so, if our listener want to read this text differently after hearing our discussion, where should they start?
I would recommend to start with the small things like noticing what the story doesn't say explicitly, like when money isn't mentioned, when sacrifice is taken for granted. Usually, that is where ideology hides.
Yeah, and notice, don't ask, why does it feel so familiar? That's where culture shows itself.
That's wonderful. Now, for our last question, any final thought or advice for younger reader or critics exploring theory for the first time?
I just want to say that don't be afraid of theories. Theories like Marxism aren't here to make reading complicated, but they help us to see what's hidden in the text that we read.
Yes, exactly. Read critically, but also with heart. Feel the story, then ask who pays the price for that feeling.
That's such a great advice. So, whether you're a student, a reader, or just someone trying to make sense of love and labor in today's world, remember stories like A Family Apart, Family Together are not just about others, they're about us. All right, thank you both of you, Fadil and Mika, for this heartfelt and thoughtful discussion. And thank you to our listener for joining us on Late Talk. Do you guys have something to say before we end our discussion?
Maybe all I can say is that don't just read, but read critically, feel deeply, and try to see stories not just as fiction, but as mirrors of the society that we live in.
Okay, thank you so much, Fadil. So this is it for today. See you in the other episode. Thank you.